Right, guys, we're back in the studio with the Stalking Shadows podcast. My name is Wayne Dell, and this is part 3 of our Kimberley adventures. So, guys, I've shared 2 parts before of this epic hunting area we used to go and visit, and with some great friends that we've made up there. And as our year went by from the last trip, we left there planning the next trip to get back to go and hunt in the Northern Cape. And this one was a little bit more exciting because we took a buddy of ours, Mr. Devon King, to go and experience the Northern Cape up. And I remember getting back from the trip, Ryan and I had obviously all the meat to process. Devon came there and helped us with the processing of the meat. And Ryan sat there and said, "Listen, Dev, if you want to join us on the next trip, bud, you start saving now. Let's we'll save so much that you can get there and go and have a great trip shooting a few species that you won't be hunting here in the Eastern Cape." So with that, Devon had a year to start saving up. So all the plans, as usual, this time was everyone needs to meet up and we need to head up. But this time round, my brother travelled directly from Port Elizabeth to the Northern Cape, and myself and my dad and old Uncle David again hopped in this side, and we met the guys in Craddock, and then we started our journey from there together. So prior to this whole trip, my brother and I were hunting a lot of South Africans and hunting my cousin's place where there were no cool room facilities. So my brother had built his own cooler trailer for when we're going on our culling expeditions and stuff. And he recently purchased a second trailer and had started building that to travel up to Kimberley. But by this stage, he hadn't got the motor on it as a cooler trailer, but it was a sealed box unit, which was great for us to bring all our meat back, because we were going to hunt as much as we can, shoot as much as we can, bring it all home, process it, and sell it all up so it would cover our cost. And we had this plan, and guys, this is hard work. When you get into the processing of stuff, and in the amounts that we had started doing it in, and we were doing a ton of meat at a time, it's hard work, late hours into the night, 2, 3 in the morning, you're putting tools down. But if you want to hunt in South Africa, I've just done the previous podcast where I had to explain how the South Africans might need to change their mindset a little bit into making sure they have enough bucks to carry on hunting. And this is how we had changed our mindset. Was what we could shoot, we could process, sell, and do the same thing again and carry on hunting and enjoying our season. So by this stage, guys, we up in Kimberley. Our buddy old Devon, he's there. He's brought himself a budget, and he had recently purchased himself a awesome 7x57 Mauser action rifle, and we had helped him set up some loads before the trip. And Devon had been on a few hunts with us now, and he'd shot his first kudu, and it was a young bull, and he'd shot some warthogs, and he'd been on a few trips with us, which is quite nice. And he's a hell of a good friend of ours. And we went up there, and my objective for this trip was, every time I went up there, I was always after a specific trophy for my wall. So this year, my goal was to go up there and hunt a waterbuck or a really, really big kudu bull like my brother had hunted the previous year. And my brother, he goes up there and he hunts, shoots, he pulls the trigger. He's there to shoot. My dad comes with, and he's just there normally for the ride of it. Not very much into, he's just there for the experience, not rushing out to go and shoot hundreds of different things. And Uncle David, he's also there for the experience. So we get there, we get to the shooting range. Tip that I didn't mention in the previous one is, yes, guys, altitude changes. We all live at the sea level. Now we've ended up in the Northern Cape. Altitude makes your rifle shoot really differently. So we made sure this time from our first experience there, learning the hard way, not checking the rifles before we started our hunt. We checked everything, got everyone zeroed again, and we started our adventure. I might get the animals muddled up in who shot what first and where and how and how we went about it. But if I'm not mistaken on this trip, my brother was the first one to shoot a red hartebeest. But now he'd recently put a new scope on his rifle. His old trusty pump action 30-06, he'd upgraded the scope, we had zeroed it was all shooting well, and somewhere along the line he started fiddling. I can't tell you what he was fiddling with or how, and when he started shooting his first animal, he was missing, and eventually he wounded the red hartebeest and it started taking off. He got so cross with his rifle, he threw it in the truck and he said to Devon, please give me your rifle. And he grabbed that 7x57 and smoked his red hartebeest. So we started this hunt off a little rough. Then we went back to the shooting range, checked what he had done and found out that he had adjusted his scope and obviously fiddling with I can't even think of what he'd moved on it, but it actually threw him off. So we got it all set back to what it was and I said, don't touch it, shoot with it like that. And then our trip flowed. And we split up the first morning. Okay, so we traveled up later this time and got a little afternoon hunting, and Ryan shot the red hartebeest. And then we decided the next day we split up. We let the old bullies go on their own and then 3 young bucks went on their own. So this place was huge, guys. It was a massive farm. They had game areas, what they called their game camps, but they were multiple farms that were fenced off. They were huge. They were 6 to 10,000 acre areas with game in to hunt, and some pieces were even bigger. So we left the old bullies where our accommodation was, which is really quite cool, rustic as anything, guys. It was just a rectangular building with a old wood stove in the kitchen area. We had a big fire pit outside that we sat outside and enjoyed fires in the evening and a bra, and it had an outside shower with a good old-fashioned donkey boiler. And we had to stoke our fire to make sure we had hot water for the evening to shower off, and that's all we need. No electricity. We charged our cameras and stuff in the pickups, and it was there just to have a great outdoor experience. So with the old bullies going off, they went off to go and hunt, and we went off to go and hunt, and I don't think we were successful in the morning, if I'm not mistaken. We did a few stalks, didn't get into anything, went back after lunch. Devon got onto his red hartebeest, and we had 1 or 2 bus stalks, and then eventually we got onto it and he made the most pin perfect shot and shot a beautiful red hartebeest, hit the ground. And at this time we were still going around looking for the waterbuck. I was looking for waterbuck, and we were told to look in this one area where there were some big old bulls. There were 2 on quota that we could hunt. And being early in the season this year, we had a great quota to pick and choose from, and they wanted us to hunt kudu in that area, not the other area. And Murphy's Law, with the area where you're not allowed to shoot anything, or like certain species, you see hundreds of them. We saw big kudu bulls, and I couldn't shoot one, but we were adamant that we were going to get a bull in this area. Bumped into quite a few nice bulls, but nothing that I was looking for that exceptional. So I was looking for an exceptionally big waterbuck, a trophy I was after, and I was after a really big kudu bull. And in this area, we had spotted a eland, which wasn't supposed to be in there. They had culled the eland out of that area because they had eland in the other area, and this lone cow was there. So he mentioned it to Guy, who was the manager, and he said if we do see it, we can hunt it for them to get it out there. It was one that was left. So we bumped into it on the first day and then never saw it after that for the next 2 days. But anyway, Dev gets his red hartebeest, so we decide, no, we're going to go after, what was his next one? A gemsbuck. So this time Ryan decided he's going to be the PH, and he took off with Devon, and I was glassing from advantage points. They got in. Ryan picked out a really awesome gemsbuck bull for him, and Devon tagged a beautiful gemsbuck bull. And I'm still trying to think of what Ryan was after. Ryan had shot the red hartebeest. He saw a springbuck. He'd shoot a springbuck. He was like, nothing, it wasn't like, oh, I mustn't shoot this. If it gave him an opportunity, he went after it. And by this stage, the next day, we were after waterbuck. We'd spotted where they were hanging out. We'd got onto the hills. We glassed, we bust. And this time round, I asked, because the very first time we went, we lost a gemsbuck. I asked the farmer if I could bring my dog with. He tracks blood. I brought one of my dogs with. I left the other one at home. Said, no problem. My dog came with. And thank goodness, the only time we needed a dog was because of my poor shooting. But I'll get back to that the poor shooting side of things. So, my rifle I took with this time was my 270 Führer 271. And I noticed at the range that I was like half an inch off to the right of the bull. And I was like putting it down to me pulling my shot. But I'd run out of adjustment to adjust it across. And I was like, no, well, then it must be pulling my shot because I can't adjust it anymore. But my rifle scope had actually shifted. So it wasn't lining up straight with the barrel. And the reason why I'm telling this part of the story is when it came to me shooting my waterbuck that eventually got a stalk on, I had an old video camera. I call it old. It was new then. My girlfriend and my wife now, she had bought this camera for me to do film hunts. And everyone was getting into filming hunts. So we brought it along to try and film as much of our adventure there. And Devon had one of these action cameras. It wasn't a GoPro. And we were trying to film a few things while we were there. And I handed the camera to my brother and I did the stalk. And I got a waterbuck bull looking absolute front onto me. And I put my cross in the middle of the chest and I squeezed the shot off, and the bull spun, he was hit, and he took off. But if you guys know, a waterbuck, if you ever visit, has got a very shaggy coat. The thing doesn't bleed very well. So the blood gets absorbed into the shaggy, oily coat that a waterbuck has. And we found 2 little drops of blood and it disappeared. And then there was this ravine where the waterbuck had got down into. And by this stage, I got my dog and I put him on it and got him to try and run it up. And we kept following. And at this stage, it was starting to get quite hot. We'd gone for probably about an hour or 2. And we'd got to a spot where my dog had slowed up and he'd waited for us, because he would take the blood and then wait for you, and then he'd sit where the blood is. And if he was feeling like you were too far away from him, he'd wait for you to catch up and then he'd carry on with it. And we were slowly but surely reeling this waterbuck in, and eventually he bumped it and the waterbuck came running out slowly, not fast, slowly, because he was severely wounded. And I managed to place a second shot and down went my waterbuck bull. And what a beautiful waterbuck bull. Absolute monster for me. My first one ever. And I was super excited to actually get the opportunity to hunt one of my favorite species in SA. So we got some great pictures of that. Got everyone out there, loaded it all up, and headed back to the campsite. And we were going to go after black wildebeest the next day that afternoon, late afternoon. And we managed to get out there. And in this whole time, we were, guys, you see, we've got a buddy there with us, and we were really trying to get him to shoot as many of his animals that he needed to get. And he eventually got a beautiful black wildebeest bull, pulling off an absolute cracker of a shot. Also, a very long frontal shot. And as I've explained, the Northern Cape is very flat and open. And you tend to misjudge the distances quite a bit because it's being so flat and open. And he managed to drop that 7x57 round in the chest of his black wildebeest. And now he'd already shot a red hartebeest, a gemsbuck, and a black wildebeest. So now Ryan was ready for him to start cracking thing. And he also decided he was going to go after a waterbuck. So more or less in the same area where we found mine, he found one bedded down, and I climbed the slope on this side, and he went off on his own stalk. So no camera footage with him, and he spotted that, and the same thing happened to him. He shot the waterbuck frontal, it soaked that bullet up, very little blood, took off down the hill, and then he managed to bump it again and thumped it with a second shot. And he got a beautiful, beautiful big waterbuck bull as well. Now, as we're cruising around with this hunt, the old toppies had still not shot anything, but we'd been there for nearly 3 days. And we were coming to the end of our trip. And the next morning, we all decided to go into one area because, I took Devon out the next day and we were after a springbuck for him. And we'd spotted a kudu bull and we bumped the bull, and the bull was huge. Big-bodied bull, but he had broken off one of his horns, and Devon had a go at him and missed him, and he got away from us, and we shot a beautiful springbuck with Devon, and that was that day. Then I think it was our last morning of hunting, and we went into the area and we spotted this bull with a group of cows. And Uncle David beat me to the punch, and he shot that kudu bull. What a beauty. He was 53 and a half, I want to say, on the one horn, and he was 43 on his broken horn. He'd broken off 10 inches on the one side. Beautiful kudu bull. That bull dressed out 200 kilos on the scale. Absolute magnificent body on him. And Uncle David had got a beautiful, beautiful kudu bull. So we carried on with the rest of the hunt. We were obviously looking for different animals, and we were on our way out, and I'd spotted that lone eland cow. And I'd managed to sort out my issue. I went to the shooting range and figured out my rifle, relined the scope, got it all zeroed again. And I snuck back on the road as Devon, my cameraman, he was with me. And we got along the road, and I could see this eland standing there with its head out. And I put the cross under its chin, and I shot this big old eland cow for the landowner. But then at this stage, we decided, no, we're going to take the meat for us. We'll pay for it. We were quite happy because eland meat is one of the best meat, venison to eat. So we managed to get that all loaded up, and we headed back to the skinning shed. And this was kind of like the end of our safari. And in the same fashion as the other 2 trips, our host guy was brilliant. Everything was there. The guys looked after us so well. The facilities were clean and beautiful. The help when we needed it for getting animals out the bush, even though we took our own trackers with, the guys were it was just an exceptional place to hunt. And the sad thing about it for us at the time, we didn't know that this would be our last Northern Cape adventure. And we never went back. As I said, my buddy Alex got a farm in Spain. He immigrated there, and Guy went with to go help set up in Spain, and that's where they are doing their thing. But this trip was an awesome one where my dad and Uncle David got together again. They got some awesome animals. My dad didn't shoot anything, but he actually took the eland home for himself, for his freezer. Ryan and I got to shoot some awesome trophies and just had an all-round cracker of a trip with great friends, with family, and ending off a 3-year run of hunting in the Northern Cape with a bang. So guys, if you're enjoying these stories, this is just a great one to give you that awesome insight to what it's all about, what hunting's all about, and just to follow on with the Stalking Shadow story side of it. Stay tuned for more. If you are an avid hunter, guys, and you're looking for an awesome pair of optics, I will drop the Vector Global link in the description. And if you're watching this and you've watched it to the end, I will stick up over here my discount code for you to get another 10% off on your purchase. So if you're enjoying these, guys, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.